The dams that are built on the Trinity River were authorized by Congress under the Central Valley Project, which runs from Lake Shasta all the way down to southern Cal, and you could drive past Stockton and you see the cement river that runs along the side of the freeway. That statute had specific language in it that said that the Bureau of Reclamation would mitigate any damage caused to the fishery because of the building of the dam, not realizing how significant that damage was. It eliminated 100 miles of tributary, 100 miles of spawning habitat. They could take up to 90% of the stream flow. And when I was a young boy, I could swim from one end of the valley to the other. I didn't need a raft or an inner tube. The river was deep enough that I could literally swim. By the time I was a young man, you couldn't float down the river in an inner tube without hanging up on the bottom. Different places were so shallow.
The Trinity dams have an impact on salmon in the Klamath as well as the Trinity River, since the Trinity flows into the Klamath. Also impacting the salmon runs is Iron Gate Dam. Of the 6 dams on the Klamath, it's the farthest downriver. As an engineering student at Stanford, I wanted to build dams. At that time, we didn't factor adverse environmental consequences into the equations. Breeding salmon in hatcheries would make up for the loss of wild fish.
Iron Gate Hatchery here is just below Iron Gate Dam, which was built in the early 60s by Pacific Power and Light. And we're called a mitigation hatchery. The reason we were put here was to take the place of the spawning habitat the fish used to be able to go to. It's about 190 river miles from the ocean to our facility here. Once they come into those traps out of the river, up the fish ladders, they are brought into the spawning building where a person sorts the fish. He checks each fish to see if it's ripe or whether it's ready to spawn or not. And he can tell that just by feeling the fish if the eggs are loose and if the male has some sperm.
Hatcheries used to be the answer. You just get a male and a female, and you spawn some eggs, and you raise a million fish, and you dump them in a river, and problem solved. But the hatchery has a lot of problems with controlling its own environment internally. It produced a lot of disease. But the bad thing about it, hatchery stock, was that when they first started doing it, it didn't matter where they got the eggs from. And they swapped them around and changed millions of years of evolution right off the bat. Changed the genetics in one generation. And what they're saying now is that type of cross, salmon get lost. They don't know where it's supposed to go.
Wild salmon stocks that evolve within a river have the resilience to adapt to changing conditions. Hatchery stocks lack adaptability. They're susceptible to being killed off by disease, and they compete with wild fish for food and habitat.
In my opinion, the Karuk tribe is impacted the most by Iron Gate Dam and the 5 dams above Iron Gate Dam. The spring fishery is no longer existence to the Karuk tribe. We have one remnant population in the Salmon River, which, by the way, is the largest remnant population on the Pacific North Coast. Natural population of spring run Chinook salmon.
The Salmon River, which flows into the Klamath and Karuk country, is undammed and almost pristine. Much of its watershed is national forest and national wilderness, and its waters are the last refuge of the spring Chinook. Spring Chinook are the salmon that return to the Klamath from their ocean journey each spring. Once they numbered in the millions, but with dams preventing them from reaching their spawning grounds, these fish face extinction.
And doing things like this to restore species that are suffering from the impacts of past management. That's who we are. That's what we do. And to get out here and get involved with the other agencies, other grassroots organizations, that's what it's all about. That's everybody working together, because that's the only way we're going to fix this forest.